so chilling to see so many of these little ones that do so desperately need our help. And I am so appreciative of Nancy for starting this program, because for an old broad like me, it's been a lot of fun.
All right, and so the third one is Nancy Moskin, and she also wanted to speak about the after-school reading program.
Thank you. The last name is Moscow. That's perfectly fine.
Okay. It looks like an N on the paper,
Oh,
so I
okay.
apologize.
That's all right. I want to talk about reading. It's the first and most important subject a child needs to learn. It's a foundation for their future. Of any profession the child wants to achieve in adulthood, what is the one thing that they need? They need to be able to read. A truck driver needs to read maps and manuals. Plumbers, electricians, welders, and the like all need to be able to read in order to be accomplished in their line of work. Any profession requires the ability to read and to comprehend what they read. Let's start to teach reading first. Kids can't do word math problems unless they can read. They can't read history books or take a test without being able to read the questions. The program that our literacy volunteers are conducting is first conversing with the child to gain confidence in us and with the surroundings. We provide worksheets in comprehension, alphabet, and math. We have flashcards for sight words and math. We have workbooks where the child reads the simple sentence and then writes down the words. We have clocks to teach them to tell time. We teach them the value of money, pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, and how to make change. The after-school program for students that we have been involved with and through the summer months of vacation has been very successful. Some test results conducted by the school administration has shown that some students have increased their reading skills dramatically. Personally, I am all for the after-school program, and our committee is committed to helping kids read and comprehend what they read and having them attain self-confidence. To the members of this board, our community needs this after-school program for the students. Parents need a safe place for their children to go after school, and I'm sure parents are grateful for the reading program that our literacy committee provides. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all, especially those who are involved in the literacy program. We do appreciate you.
Can they raise their hands, the literacy?
Yeah, if you've been involved in that program, raise your hand, the literacy committee. Hey, wonderful, thank you. Okay. All right. So on the agenda, it shows the discussion of the fiscal year 2024 budget. We are going to rearrange the agenda, since we know that many of you here that, as part of our public are interested in the extended school day program that was the Club for Youth. And so we're going to adjust those agenda items so that we can jump right into that.
Okay, so originally we asked this to be on the workshop agenda because it's sooner than a board agenda, because there's so many wheels in motion and so much going on that KUSD has been desperately trying to help the community with. As you know, in late April, the Club for Youth closed with 24-hour notice, displacing a lot of families and our reading program. So we absorbed that into the school under grant funding. We were able to do that because we did not charge. It was free of charge. What we cannot do as a public school district is a public gift of funds, so it needed to be an after-school program that was academic in nature and met grant requirements, which it was. We did that through the last day of school, and then in collaboration with Mojave County, we received ESSER funds, federal funds again. So we did not have to charge families, and we put into the summer program. So those kids who were displaced or those families had somewhere to go through the month of June and in toward the beginning of school. In the meantime, we were doing some research because the grant funding had a cliff. We could no longer access the grant fund we used in April and May. The ESSER funds that we used during the summer, we spent $45,000. We had almost 200 kiddos come free of charge 7 a.m. to 5:30 every day. 200 total, not all at one time, typically. Some would be there some days and some other days. It's on it. Saving the families a lot of money, but getting kids into a program where they had access to our reading volunteers. We had iReady reading and math on the computers, and we really loved it. During all that time, we were trying to figure out a way to continue it forward. But without any money, it would have to become a fee-based program, which is why I put it on the agenda. To become a fee-based program, it would be similar to the Club for Youth before it closed. Most families paid a fee per week or monthly to participate in the program, and it's a reduced fee so that they could afford it. And in researching that is where we've hit some huge barriers. So to become a fee-based program means that you have to apply with the Arizona Department of Health to become a licensed day care provider. It's not an after-school program when you have to charge. We can't do it free of charge, because if we did that, it's a gift of public funds. There's this battle. I hope that makes sense. When we get taxpayers' money to run the schools, that pays for books and curriculum and teachers and overhead and IT and all of that. It doesn't pay for what is considered child care, which is after school. So our after-school programs have to fall into grant funding. The licensing, what we've learned, is going to take anywhere, it's 84 pages of statutes and compliance, which includes ADA and inspections and ratios and all of the things. We have it all figured out. We have job titles and job descriptions already made. We have the whole handbook ready, but we haven't been granted that licensing. It's time consuming. So that's our number one barrier right now. So the unfortunate news is we can't turn around and open up and make it a fee-based program in a timely manner. So we have to look at options where we can maybe utilize our schools and grow our after-school care programs on campuses. And I haven't met with the reading club yet, but one of the suggestions I was going to make is not getting rid of your room or your materials or anything like that, but those same kiddos are on our campuses that were being bused to the former Club for Youth. And we have a collaboration with our principals next Tuesday, and I thought getting the kids and the volunteers together would be the number one priority. So having a meeting with the principals and the volunteers for the Club for Youth immediately, and seeing where is the most need and can we give them a room, and if it's an extension of the school day on the campus, then we don't need to charge the parents. That doesn't make it childcare, but we still get the volunteers with the kids. So that's our goal for that piece of it. To continue using this fabulous group with the same kids, but on the campuses where they are already in school. So it go from the school day into the volunteer reading piece. We can definitely do that. Then in the other, I'm going to make a call to action to the public. We have quite a few people kind of waiting in the wings to see what's happening, that want to offer an after-school program such as the Club for Youth. So we will hold a public session where anybody can get information on what we need. And then, like the Boys and Girls Club of America, for example, has contacted us. There are several entities that have come to us and said, we will continue carrying the torch that the Club for Youth once carried, side by side with the district instead of the district doing it. So basically what I'm suggesting is a hybrid. Growing our after school in the schools in a way that is compliant with taxpayer dollars and federal grants, and working with an outside entity to use the facility to have a more broad reach across the community. So for really the discussion part is getting the board's blessing to do this and to make the public aware of what we've been doing and what we're trying to do. So I'll just sum it up. We cannot use taxpayer dollars to offer free after-school care now that the grant funding is gone, but we can have after-school programs on the campuses that do comply. So we're going to work on both of those things at once. I know that there's a lot of parents in town right now and they call on a pretty regular basis over here. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? We've tried for several grants. They haven't worked out. we're doing everything we can, we really are. So we're gonna work with our principals and see what we can do on the campuses now. I'll take questions from the board.
So just to make sure I understand, so from April to the end of May, they were able to be in the Club for Youth building?
No,
No,
on
okay,
our school campuses.
okay.
The Club for Youth building is a whole nother conversation, as I'm sure our friends here could attest to. It
So
would not
not
pass,
even-
it will not pass an ADA compliance
Yeah.
inspection. I have to be absolutely honest and say, I don't know how it ever did once we got back in there. To use a restroom, you either have to go downstairs or upstairs. There's no way for students or adults with disabilities to have access to a restroom. That would have to be handled immediately. There are others, that's the most major piece. There are other minor pieces. So whatever we do going forward, what we've learned through all of the licensing, we made an assumption that, well, the Club for Youth did it, we can do it. But there must have never been an inspection, to be honest with you, because it's bad. And so we would not pass an inspection to even get a license at this point. We've talked about the Palo Christi building, the gym. We know that we just added, assistant superintendent worked on this last year, added sprinklers, made the 3 classrooms there good. That's an option, but as you know, we're looking to renovate in the next year, so that's not good. We thought about using La Sanita School, because they do have a little bit of extra space, and the reason we thought about using them was because they are already a daycare approved facility, right? So I looked in all my research. This is not under our wheelhouse until April 24th.
Right.
This is all new to us. But they are a licensed daycare at La Sanita because they went through this entire licensing process, and they are a 5-star preschool, the only one in the area. And so we thought if we put it at the La Sanita campus, then we can just extend the grade span from preschools all the way up. And so, that's a possibility, except for space. There's a lot of kiddos, like I said earlier. Bill Ward used to say, and you guys could attest to that, upwards of 200 kids rotating through. So that's a lot of extra kids on the La Sanita campus. It's already full. So we're looking at absolutely every possibility, but what we want to do right away, like I said, is the hybrid piece where we get volunteers matched with kiddos who need reading. I couldn't agree more with what Nancy said. And we'll do that on the school campuses with the principals, and then they won't need to be transported, and it should be pretty easy. So we'll have a meeting with this whole group and the principals in the next week, and we'll make it happen.
I have a couple of questions. One is, how many are the kids primarily located in 1 or 2 schools? Or
Yeah.
are we hoping that, like, one of
Wallapai School has quite a large number, and you can help me out. It was like 40.
I couldn't hear.
Oh, how many kiddos per school are they concentrated? The largest number were coming from Wallapai, Manzanita, and Surbat. There are some at Desert Willow as well. Maybe because it's a smaller school, it doesn't, relatively, there's fewer. Wallapai's twice as many kids, so there's twice as many kids. But yes, Desert Willow we would never forget.
And so the goal would be to have volunteers at each one of those?
That would be awesome.
Is that the
Yeah.
plan?
Yeah.
And then are all of the volunteers already cleared to work with kids on the school by being fingerprinted?
Well,
and-
if they're under the supervision of someone on the campus, and we can work through the volunteer forms with them. That
Okay.
part I'm not afraid of.
Thank you.
Yes. And we give them keys, because they did experience some stuff. So we'll make sure their space and their materials are guarded well.
Yes. And it would be open until 5:30?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that it'd be whatever we decide with the principals and the volunteers, what time they would be there.
Gotcha.
But we are trying to expand the after-school with each campus under whatever. Each campus is allotted a certain amount of grant money, Title I money for after-school tutoring. There's 21st century grants on some of the campuses. And so we'll see what's available through that. It can't take care of all of the kids and all of the time, but it's a starting place.
Awesome.
So if I understand, when it's an after-school on the campus, it would still be open to even more than just the ones who were registered at the original Club for Youth or use the summer program.
All of the campuses have some sort of after school. Every one of them has, arts or science or drama or different kinds of things. We're just seeing who has it, who's attending it, and it wouldn't be limited. Whatever the school has to offer, it's offered to all kids.
Thank you. So what do you need from us?
To know
As the
what we're
board.
doing and to give us a thumbs up to keep moving forward on it. You don't have to vote. We were going to vote on a fee scale, but because we don't have the licensing piece done, you don't need to vote on a fee scale.
Well, I, for one, I think that moving forward, at least with more exploratory and more information, would be very good. What time would be the collaboration with the principals next Tuesday?
Well, the collaboration with the principals next Tuesday, the elementaries is 8 to 10, but that's not a public.
Right, yeah. No, I understand.
Time with them, and then should Nancy, you be the main contact?
I think it's wonderful to go ahead and explore options so that we can have an after-school program that also allows for the literacy program to continue to be active in the community.
We agree.
So we give, do you have anything?
If you'd like us to invite one of you to the collaboration, that would be great. The one with the volunteers.
That would be separate from the principals, correct? Yeah. Okay. You must have an electric personality. You keep turning that thing on.
Yeah, if one of the board members would like to join the reading committee, principal committee, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your work so far and look forward to whatever may come to pass.
There's a roadblock around every corner, and Board Secretary Valerie would like to have closer to this, I have no doubt.
All right. Well, then we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the budget workshop and discussion of the fiscal year 2024 budgets.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you for coming. This is going to be very similar to what we did a few months ago back in February with the workshop. Informational, give you a little bit deeper dive on what we're looking at for this current year, what was actually put into the budget, and then just some quick updates on some of our subcontracted services, some projects that we are in the works with. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask at any time. So topics for today is FY24 budget, both M&O and unrestricted capital, SSC, Chartwell's, School Facilities Oversight Board, Palo Christi update, and monthly board reports. So a quick overview. What I put in for our current ADM, which is average daily membership, is 6,615. That's roughly where we left last year off at. I rolled that number over. Our average contracted salaries for teachers is $47,307. On top of that, they also receive classroom site funds, which is $10,000 per year for this current year. Every year we get a classroom site fund committee together. We talk about where our fund is at and what we're going to do for the next year. Last year was at $9,000. We bumped it up to $10,000 this year, and there's always a possibility of increasing or decreasing. Instructional Improvement Fund, which was voted on a few months ago for this last year and for years going forward, that adds between $300 and $1,000 per year depending on years of service. And then additional stipends are also available for teaching staff. So if they want to coach, they get a stipend for that. There's always professional development that adds money into their salaries. Our current teacher to student ratio is 1 to 21.8. That always fluctuates whenever we have teachers, increased students, increased teaching staff. That's always a moving number. And then our base level amount for ADM is $4,914.71, which was an increase of $139.44 over last year. So we're going to talk about M&O real quick. Our expected rollover fund balance from FY23 is $1.85 million. That just means we spent less than what we budgeted. That money rolls over into the next year. The budget capacity for M&O is 52.825 million. And this is the primary operating fund. So this is salaries and wages, supplies, any daily operating funds needed. The primary budget based is student enrollment. So the more students we receive, the more money we get. Decrease in enrollment means decrease in funds. We will begin wage increase discussions in October or November when we get around to the increase, minimum wage increase effective January 1st, 2024. At this time, we'll also discuss salary increases for non-minimum wage employees, both hourly and salary personnel, and if it fits into our budget. So what this looks like. Last year, I presented the board with 6 different options, a flat dollar amount, a different percentage increase, and then how that affects the budget, and then you guys discuss and come to a conclusion. I think when it was all said and done, I had given the board 14 different options, so I can always bend to whatever you would like to see, but I'll try and keep it short and simple at first, and if you guys want to expand on it, I can definitely do that. Unrestricted capital outlay, our expected rollover for fund balance for FY23 is at $3 million. Where we sit now without the rollover is $8.5 million in the budget. That's the budget capacity. This primary use is for equipment, furniture, improvements, textbooks. We can buy property with it. It can go into construction. This is also based on student enrollment. So once again, increase in students means increase in funds, decrease means less funds. In the actual budget, I increased rentals, textbook, and instructional aid available. So that will make curriculum happy and getting back on track where we need with all of our curriculum and instructional aids in our schools. SSC operates and manages our custodial grounds and maintenance for our whole district. Their expected staff as of yesterday, I got the updated numbers, were 57 custodial members, 8 grounds, and 11 maintenance. They're down 4 maintenance personnel right now. They are in the process of interviewing. They said they believe they have 8 great candidates and a maintenance supervisor to help tie everything up to where we need to be. The cost for custodial grounds and maintenance for this coming year, I'm expected to be at about $6.3 million. So what that breaks down to is the contract is $5.6 million and some change just to have them here on campus doing the work for us. Special projects, what we spent last year, and this is M&O, capital, and some grant-funded projects, was $600,000. And then KUSD funded employees, we're down to 1 KUSD employee, and that salaries and benefits comes to roughly $47,000. The reason we have 1 KUSD employee is they're up in Mount Tipton, and they also do some bus driving for us too. And instead of losing that person, we just kept him on. Chartwells operates and manages our food service department for the district. We roughly feed 58,000 meals per month. That's an average. 15,000 breakfasts, 41,000 lunch, and 2,600 dinners. There are 4 campuses that serve dinner daily: Black Mountain, Mount Tipton, Surbat, and Kingman High School. Chartwells receives a portion of the reimbursement that the district gets, and they bill us every month. And those rates are $207 per breakfast, $380 for lunch, and $380 for every dinner that we serve.
Would you please explain, for anyone who doesn't know, how someone qualifies to be a campus that serves dinner?
So it's all based on free and reduced status. So higher low-income families receive free or reduced meals. And then based on that percentage at schools, they're able to offer dinner programs, free to students, free to anybody under the age of 18. It's a great program for our lower income communities. I would love to grow it. I'm very passionate about it. That's what I did at my last district. It's a great program.
So if you're low income, Director Mulholland, if you're low income and you're not at Black Mountain, Mount Tipton, Surbat, or Kingman High, can you attend dinner on one of those campuses?
Absolutely. And like I said, it doesn't even just have to be our students. It can be if a child is homeschooled, they can go there and get dinner for free. So based on those numbers, there was roughly $1.9 million spent for Chartwells last year. With that being said, our revenue based off of those meals that we received from the state is $2.6 million. So we have an increase of funds, a great problem to have, but with that problem, we have an extra set of money that we need to spend. Food service revenue can only be spent on food service projects. So kitchen upgrades, new equipments, things of that matter. So every year, and we've done some work on spending it down. Every year we have an excess cash that we have to explain to the state. Why do we have so much money in this fund? How are we going to spend it? But it's a long-term process, especially when it came to all of the supply chain shortages we had. The last couple years, it's been a rolling process, but now we have even more money in the bank and we need to start spending it down.
And that, to clear any confusion, that is not, when you look at the 207 or 3, the kids or the families who are paying, that's not an aggregate of those funds.
Correct.
It's an aggregate of what?
Of the school lunch program,
Right.
the state
So I don't want anyone to
school lunch
think that
program.
your chart, to reduce the price
Mhm.
then, and then you won't have that excess fund. That's not the issue
Correct.
of having too much money. It's state reimbursements, and we have an efficient program.
Yes.
Okay.
Very efficient.
So the kids that wanted a dinner,
Mhm.
would they have to prove that they're low income, or would they
Nope.
just show up?
They can just show up. It's based on the school. So the school qualifies as low income. Even if my children were not in a low income status, they could go to that school and eat. We as a district would get off the top of my head, it's $4 and some change per meal back from the state. And then we in turn pay the $380 back to Chartwells for their service. Any other questions? So School Facilities Oversight Board, they distribute money to school districts in order to address existing deficiencies and to provide funds for building renewal and new school construction. This is something that we've been pushing over the last year to get more involved in because we do have a lot of projects that need some attention, and we may not necessarily have the funds to do it. So the current year's budget for School Facility Oversight Board is $300 million. What I learned today during their board meeting was that's not enough money. It sounds great, but when you look at the 217 districts we have in the state of Arizona, and you think about all the schools that are over 50 years old, they all need a lot of work. So our current projects that we have that are in the approved status and moving forward in some phase are the Mount Tipton roof, the Mount Tipton weatherization, and the Kingman High School boiler. Future projects, so these are either projects that are sitting in School Facilities Board for approval or things that we know we need to get done in the near future. As you can see, it's a hefty list. Kingman High School cooling tower, Kingman High School bleachers, White Cliff Middle School cooling tower, Kingman Middle School bathroom update, Kingman Middle School air handler unit, Manzanita Elementary HVAC, Little Explorer HVAC, Wallop High School HVAC, Lee Williams First Street, which is the Prior Club for Youth, they need a new roof, and the Palo Christi renovations.
And we can add on
We can keep
handicap
adding-
accessible for the Lee Williams.
adding
First
on
Street,
all this stuff.
so that we can get to our licensing.
So unfortunately, the ADA compliant cannot be covered
Cannot be.
by SFB. That's something that we have to come up with the funds with ourselves. This is a operable location that is student space that is up to code on everything, but they may need something else. So failing HVAC units, we're up to code on our HVAC. We have them. They're just failing. Those can be paid for. Any questions? Okay. So Palo Christi updates. I'm very passionate about Palo Christi. It's been a long haul and a little stressful at times, but we're making some leeway. So we had DH Pace come out and give us a quote on what security would be, getting cameras in there, making sure everything's wired and secured correctly for when we do get students in there. We got a quote for $115,000. It's going to be a little bit more when we start talking about closing off the front entranceway for locking out public from getting into the school when students are in there. So adding an extra wall once you enter the building, so there's not regular people coming in off the streets. That's going to cost a little bit more money, but that's where our quote sits now. First Due came in and did a walk talking about getting us up to date on all of our fire safety. We have an HVAC test and a electrical test coming up soon. We need to find a time for them to both come together so they can start up our HVAC system to make sure it's working properly. We found out we have a new-ish HVAC system over there. That was amazing news for all of us involved. It's going to save us roughly $250,000. We just need to make sure it's in working order. So we need to get that up and running. That should be done by the end of this month. And then landscaping cleanup. I'm sure if anybody has driven by Palo Christi prior to the last 2 weeks, it looks a little crazy and unkempt, and that was not our intention. So we did spend some money, get Visions out there to clean it up, cut down some trees that could be a problem when we start the renovation process, and just make it look like we still do care, because we really do. Any questions on Palo? Okay. So I'm going to go over the monthly board reports. You guys get really fun packets from me with a lot of numbers on them, and I apologize. You guys get the payroll and accounts payable vouchers. Those are everything that's been paid out the prior month, whether it's payroll or accounts payable. It gives you a breakdown of everything, and you are responsible for signing it over. You also receive the budget control group report, and this breaks down all auxiliary, club, discretionary, and tax credit accounts and what their balances are. The expenditure budget balance report will break out all funds, that's M&O, capital, grants, food service, student accounts, and so on. And it will give you a quick idea of what has been spent out of these funds. The fund balance report break out all the fund accounts and will give you a quick idea of the remaining fund balance available. So this is our beginning balance plus the revenue minus expenses, give you the ending fund balance. Now with this being said, we do cash-based accounting. So you need to keep in mind revenue. I get revenue on the 10th of the month, on the 10th of the following month, and then I must enter it into the system. So when you receive, when we come to the August board meeting, you're gonna receive the documents, and I won't even have July in those numbers yet. So think 2 months back to get an accurate number, and that's the same with expenses as well. We may receive product, we may have the intention of paying it, but it hasn't been paid out yet, so that money is still sitting in our account. Any questions on that? So our next step is a budget revision, which will happen, we'll start talking about it in October, November, December, when we start talking about minimum wage increases, when we get a tighter look at ADM, where our students sit, and any changes that we need to make to the budget, whether it's increasing more supplies for the assistant superintendent over there, or or anything, any school needs, any big projects that need to come out of our funds. We can get a tighter look at where those should be coded.
And can you give an estimate of what you're hearing the minimum wage increase might be?
I haven't even heard anything yet.
I haven't either.
Believe last year was 65 cents an hour. And with inflation, I'm expecting more than that. We need to get to $15 an hour by 2025, and we still have $1.15 to go to get to that point. Dr. Dorner and I haven't discussed it in the last couple months, but I've even gotten to the point to see where we are at, and if we can just go ahead and get to that $15 an hour this year to make next year a little bit easier. But I know that is a big dollar amount, and then we do not want to only focus on minimum wage employees or those that would fall under the $15 an hour. We want to be equitable and give it to everybody in some manner. Are there any other questions? That is all I have.
Go ahead. I was just going to give like a wrap-up report of our
Yeah.
visit to schools that had to do with money when you're done.
And it
President
doesn't have to
Henry.
be now, but I know that we have a lot of contracts that are paid out through the different funds. And I was wondering if we could get maybe a list of those and what they are supplying, and
So a
maybe what
list
those
of the
contracts.
different grants and then how much we're paying out in
Yeah,
salaries and wages?
Just kind of just so that we have an understanding of the contracts, because that's a typical part of one of our board meetings, is coming and saying, you know, there's this internet company that we're going to sign this contract with. So it would be nice to know what's already in place
Absolutely.
for when those future things come in.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
All yours.
Well, that's okay. I was just going to give some good news in that Jerry Woolsey and I, typically every year we will go to each of the campuses right before school starts and do a meeting where the whole staff gathers and we say, hey, and we have about 5 or 10 minutes and then we rush, kind of like I did with the oncoming board members. This year we decided to walk the campuses and have face-to-face meetings with every single teacher. So that's 350 teachers in a matter of about 3 days. Went to every campus and walked and saw many of them. We had to circle back the first couple of days for anyone we might have missed. And the good news is, in every single room well, first of all, we gave them a voucher for classroom supplies, because I heard what you said earlier today. You know, teachers spend a lot of their own pocket money on classroom supplies. So we gave them a voucher to buy classroom supplies they might typically spend on their own. That was very well received. Talk about subscriptions. We continued the teacher pay teacher subscription that we had last year, which they were thrilled about. And then every single teacher was asked the same question: what do you need? Because our mantra is do the right thing right now. This year we're saying it all day, every day. Do the right thing right now. Right now being as quickly as we can. So what do you need right now to be successful in your role? And you know, most teachers were fine, which is good. That's great news. But we did gather, and I would like to give a shout out to our finance department for kind of having some money set aside where anything that anyone asked for, we immediately came back and kind of circled up and thought, can we do it? And there wasn't a no, because teachers just ask for what they need. They're amazing people. It might, you know, we might had to call Tim and say, we need an updated cart, quick, in a room, or someone had desks and they wanted tables, so we would get to the principal and say, get this person tables and chairs, or tables instead of desks. Just things like that. It was a really amazing start to the year, and so I think we'll repeat that next year, and I'll invite the board. Maybe we'll do it mid-year with some of you, some of the campuses, and check in again. So it was good, and we are happy that we've been a fiscally responsible team, that we were able to get anybody what they needed, including books, as you saw in the budget. There's always, that has been, I've been in the district 32 years, and that has been a conversation over and over and over again. We've had boards in the past literally write policy that every child will have a book. Every family will have any books they need at home, not just at school. And so that's a really important value for our district. So it sounds like we need to make sure everybody knows that again. So I'm actually really happy about that call to the public, because we need to make sure that message is clear. And I want you to know, as boards, if somebody needs books, we will get them books. Sometimes they just want to set it home so they're not going back and forth, so that kids can do their work. And I totally agree about the screen time, by the way.
I agree.
So I don't know if this is the right place to ask this question, but to try to kill two birds with one stone, could we put in like a kid's kitchen in that first Lee Williams building, tag on an ADA bathroom in the kitchen, and pay with those funds, since it's kitchen related, and have kids come and learn how to cook?
Jerry's face.
Wow, that's genius. That's what my face is saying.
Yeah, we love creative legal workarounds.
So
Keyword being legal.
So it is creative work, as long as it directly ties back to students and what is needed for students. So if we can get that approved through NSLP, that it is a designated supper feeding program. The only question I have is because it's on Lee William campus, and Lee William doesn't qualify for that. But we can always look into it. And we could use the funds to update a kitchen. And guess what? We do need a bathroom, and we need plumbing. So
Done.
there's I would have to look into specifically whether we can make that a separate feeding location and then do some work on it.
Amazing.
But we do have the money and food service for it.
Right?
Yes. Love it.
Anything else?
Yeah, anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion on the table to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Aye.